Most people wake up to the sound of birds or maybe the hum of a coffee maker. Me? I woke up to the roar of a 2025 Chevy Suburban plowing through my front lawn, and I'm not exaggerating. It was like Catherine Dunn, HOA president, had mistaken my grass for her personal racetrack. Yeah, that Catherine, the one who polices mailboxes and flower beds like she's running for sheriff of suburbia. I know, you're probably thinking I'm making this up, but I couldn't invent a better antagonist if I tried. The first time I saw those tire tracks, it was early March after a soaking rain. The soil was still soft, the kind that keeps a record of every step, every paw print, every bit of neighborhood drama. At first, I blamed a delivery driver, maybe some teenager cutting across for a dare. But nope, every morning, there they were. Same lines, same angle, same violation of everything I cared about. That's why I set up a cheap camera, because clearly, reason was in short supply. You know what I mean? When your home is your canvas, you notice every brushstroke and every scratch. My lawn, straight as a military haircut, was my pride. I fertilized, edged, trimmed all by hand. And now, every morning, I was greeted not by birdsong, but by fresh ruts and mud splattered across the walk like a signature. It wasn't just careless, it was surgical, deliberate. Someone was making a statement, and unfortunately, that someone was sitting atop the HOA food chain. I tried the neighborly route first, asked around, dropped casual hints. Hey, notice any wild drivers lately? Just got a bunch of shrugs and polite smiles, the kind that let you know people know something and aren't about to say. The worst part? Every time I looked out, my lawn felt less like home and more like a crime scene, and my own anger started bubbling up, slow and hot, like coffee left too long on the burner. So, I did what any reasonable person would do: surveillance. $39 online, one motion camera pointed right at the corner where the carnage happened. The next morning, there was a moment of truth. A tank of a Chevy Suburban, paint still sparkling, crawling up onto my grass like it belonged there. And behind the wheel, Catherine herself, sunglasses on, looking like she just won a prize. I nearly spilled my coffee. The footage didn't lie. The queen of HOA fines was the vandal, and she wasn't even subtle about it. Let me back up a sec. This is the same woman who fined me last year because my recycling bin was visible from the street. The same one who cited a neighbor for Christmas lights up after New Year's. And here she was, making my yard her shortcut with a smirk. I watched that clip over and over, half in disbelief, half in rage. The kind of rage that settles in your chest and makes it hard to breathe. Now, in most stories, this is where you call in reinforcements, or at least reason with the villain. But Catherine was the reinforcements. She was the HOA, three-term president, chair of every committee, worshipped and feared in equal measure. If I went to the board, I knew exactly how it'd play out: sympathy for her, fines for me. Calling the cops? They'd laugh me off the block. This was chess, not checkers, and I needed more than just proofing needed strategy. So I did what I do best. I waited. I collected evidence. Different angles, different times of day, building a highlight reel of Catherine's daily commute across my property. I labeled the clips: Queen's Shortcut, Suburban Assault. You get the picture. It was almost funny if you ignored the destruction. Then came the escalation. Every time I tried to talk to her, she'd wave me off with a smile that never touched her eyes. It's just grass, she said once, like that made it okay. When I brought up the footage, she didn't blink. Those cameras can be unreliable, Dylan. Maybe you're mistaken. That's when a mask slipped. She leaned in, low and cold, and said, I am the board. You make noise, you make trouble for yourself. And just like that, the gauntlet was thrown. Next thing I know, I'm getting violation letters for failure to maintain lawn quality. Never mind that it was her tires causing the damage. More letters for hedges, trash bins, you name it. The HOA had become her personal weapon, and I was the favorite target. I almost lost hope, I really did. But then I realized Catherine thrived on conflict she controlled. If I fought her in the open, I'd lose. But if I flipped the script, that's where things got interesting. So I started planning quietly. I read city codes, HOA bylaws, everything I could get my hands on. Turns out, you can't set traps or install barriers that create hazards, but you can beautify your property, as long as it's tasteful and legal. I designed a row of heavy planters and low shrubs, a little gravel path ornamental, defensible, and right in the path of her shortcut. Ordered the materials, hired a landscaper, saved every receipt. All above board. The reveal was cinematic. Wednesday morning, the planters went in sturdy, beautiful, and right where her Suburban liked to roll. Neighbors started to notice. Mara from next door, Hector from across the street, both had their run-ins with Catherine and were more than happy to keep their phones handy for the big moment. And oh, did she deliver. That afternoon, Catherine pulled up, saw the new installation, and for a split second, her face went slack. She tried to maneuver through, but the planters made it awkward. The bumper clipped one, gravel crunched, and neighbors watched as her fortress of a car inched back and forth, every move more humiliating than the last. Mara caught it on video. Hector streamed it to the neighborhood group chat. The narrative was shifting. For the first time, Catherine looked small, ridiculous, even. You could feel it in the air, the power she held, slipping through her fingers. At the next HOA meeting, I came armed with my folder. Receipts, codes, photos, video. Catherine tried her best, claimed harassment, defamation, obstruction of community easements. The neighbors weren't buying it. Mara stood up and said, "Those planters are beautiful. Maybe you should thank Dylan for investing in the neighborhood." Hector played the video, and the room broke out in laughter. She fired off more letters, even brought in a lawyer and filed a complaint. Court day came. I showed the evidence, and the judge dismissed the case so fast I barely had time to get nervous. That was the day the tide turned. The videos went viral in our community group. Jokes, memes, even a remix with dramatic music. Suddenly, Catherine wasn't feared she was fodder. She lost her seat on the board, not with drama, but with a whisper people just stopped listening. The planters flourished, the grass grew back, and for the first time in months, I felt like the block belonged to the people again. No more early morning destruction, no more smug waves. Catherine still drives by, but now she avoids my house. Sometimes victory doesn't come with a big speech or fireworks. Sometimes it looks like a row of flowers and a silent crowd of neighbors, quietly approving. That's the real lesson. You don't need to shout to win. Sometimes you just have to outlast, outthink, and let arrogance dig its own grave. If you got your own battle scar from a neighbor or an HOA, I want to hear it. Drop your story in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and stick around. Trust me, here are more tales of petty revenge and sweet justice waiting to be told. Because sometimes justice doesn't look like a gave lit, looks like a blooming planter on a sunny Saturday morning.